my suffering was self-imposed. And that could be true for you as well if you are not being your authentic self. We only suffer in our lives when we're not willing to become our authentic selves, and sometimes that changes because as we live our lives, we evolve, and that person that we're meant to be shows up, and we have to be willing to embrace that. And I haven't done that. And not fully, but I'm going to do more now. Many of you have maybe heard me talk about some of the things that are going on now in my past, but I'm going to do a little bit more so you will understand it. I began receiving information when I was very young, and it was frightening. I mean spiritual information, and I just thought that was just strange. I just tried to avoid it forever. And it caused a lot of difficulties in my life. I had headaches, I was depressed, I had all sorts of physical things that happened very early in my life, and I couldn't quite figure that out. As I got older in my adolescence, I found myself moving into different areas with my family where I felt out of place because I moved into neighborhoods where I was the only black person and things like it was just odd that I would go through all of these things. And then when I was about 19, 20 in that area, I had a girlfriend, white girlfriend, and that was really challenging at that time because the racial problems were really heavy. This is in the late 60s and 70s. And but then I also discovered I was gay, and so I had to really deal with that. So it was always something that was coming up. Then I found out that she was pregnant, but we lost the kid. I didn't find that out till later. She had a miscarriage, and I carried all this guilt forever because I couldn't be myself. I couldn't really own who I was. And that went on for a while, and then I started going through all kinds of other things in my life. I had every kind of illness, disease, headaches, hospitalizations, losing part of my foot, all of these things, all because I was resisting becoming who I was. That's all, because when we don't resist, we can heal basically anything. So then in 1990, I discovered I was HIV positive, and so I should have died. I should have died many times in my life, and I figured out how to not do that. And during that time, I didn't need any medication. They couldn't figure it out. How is this happening? They called me a non-progressor or something they couldn't quite understand. And I didn't want to talk about it because I didn't want to tell people what I was doing. Then I would start to do things like go to the doctors and get blood work done. And I'd look at the blood work. I'd be able to analyze it. And I would understand mind-body connections because if something was off, I would know how to correct it. I mean, I would do this all the time, but I didn't want to tell people because it was too unbelievable. And this went on for many years, and then I started to try to hide this. I didn't let anybody try to see this, because I started doing automatic writing in 1988. And we had moved through another change in our world in 1987, the harmonic convergence, but I didn't want to own that either, because I understood what was happening. But then as this went on, I said I needed more help, so I said, let me write this down. So I started writing what I would receive every day. And I saved them. I didn't know why I was saving them, but I saved all of them for all of these years. And as I did that, things were like miraculously happening in my life, and I couldn't figure them out. I had a job earlier in my life that no one could figure out how I took a business and made it this successful, and I didn't know what I was doing. Then I started a vocal coaching business that I didn't know what I was doing there, did the same thing, made it really successful. We earned, I don't know how much he's earning now. I sold the business, but he earned at least couple $1 million, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I still wasn't going to tell people how I was doing that. Then in 2005, I had a dream, and I didn't want to live the dream either because I thought I couldn't be my authentic self. But I'm going to read the dream to you. The appearance of this dream was that there were several spiritual leaders of sorts in a group, in a circle, and we were asked who would do something, and I ran forward. It seemed that I volunteered, while at the same time thinking, why did it need to be me? I seem to be in a conflict of whether or not I will continue to listen and be open without the pain, or will I go back to my old ways, which was sort of the indication with me seeing my old friend yesterday. I asked for guidance and clarity. There is still a part of me that thinks the experience wasn't real on some level, and I could put it away, while a stronger part knows that is not the case. And that was the case. And the friend thing was a very great indication that the reason that I couldn't do this because I was afraid of being judged. I had gone through this for so long because I couldn't even tell my family. They didn't understand what was going on. How was I doing this? How was I understanding things? None of that made sense. Then in 2020, I started changing because I started receiving different information. I knew what was happening in the world, and I knew I needed to step up and do something to help so I could help the world become better. I'm supposed to be this spiritual leader, but I'm hiding out because I don't want to tell you who I am, you see. I can't be my authentic self. And that caused every difficulty in my life. As this went on, in 2021, I'm walking and I hear, we gave you everything you needed to know in 2012. That made no sense to me, and I thought it was crazy, and I thought I'm going to put it away, and I couldn't. Because I come into my home and I look at my computer and I see a folder that I had not paid attention to with many messages from 2012. I didn't know anything about that, didn't know what it meant. You have to understand, when I was receiving information and writing, there were many times where I would write words that I didn't know what they meant, and I would hear my guide say, look it up. I have many of those writings. Nobody has seen those because I've never published them. And then as this went on, what does that mean, 2012? I'd heard somebody else mention that. I had no idea what it was. Then I went back and I started to look. Then it was at the end of the Maya calendar and where something was supposed to happen, and we are moving into creating a new world. We started then, and this is where this culmination was meant to happen, and I was supposed to help move in the new world if I could accept and become my authentic self. And the way that I'm supposed to do that is to help everyone else become who they're meant to be. Because when we do that, we don't have what's going on. We would correct the what's going on with the climate. We would do something different. We wouldn't have the division, we wouldn't have the fighting, the anger, the wars, all of that. I had to work through all of those issues within myself because we all have them. We all have biases. I wrote something in 2016 because I knew where things were heading there. I talked about how my racist biases, I had to talk about that and say, no, we all have them. And then I talked about the gender biases because I knew we were going to be moving through that, and which we are doing right now. And I knew that this time in our world there was going to be a lot of conflict because we have to change, and we're not willing to do that. I wasn't willing to do that, but I can no longer live that way because it's causing me to struggle. And anyone who is struggling in their lives, it's because they're not becoming their authentic selves, and this is why I can see who you are. I can sit with a client and I know what you're holding back, I know what you're fearing, I know what you don't believe about yourself, and I can guide you through that. It was odd for me to talk about this as a coach. How can a coach know all of these things and tell me this? That's why. And I was just putting it away. So then when I put out something yesterday where I said I could become a billionaire, and I know that's true because I was given something. It was a gift that I have, and it's called Your Life Operating Instructions. That made no sense to me until I went back and looked at it. Yes, most of them came through in 2012, but it was also my entire experience of my life, everything that I've done, and what I've acquired, and the knowledge and the wisdom I have, and the skills to heal that I know I possess that I was holding back. That's all it was. And so what this is, I'm supposed to work with people and give it to the world. Because see, this work, what it does is causes every individual to own who they are, to work through all of their generational issues, doubts, fears, biases, everything. Anything that made you hatred, anger, all of that stuff, none of us are supposed to have. And when we work through that, we live these abundant, glorious lives where we're happy, fulfilled, have the loves of we have everything. And I know how to guide people there, and I have the tool to do it. And I've just been holding back because I couldn't become my authentic self. But I'm supposed to write a book about it and continue to do my program, which is what I'm going to do, because people who come out of that, they all of a sudden realize who they are, and they feel, wow, I didn't know that was there. And I know that I can do that, but I was holding it back, and now I have to be my authentic self so you can do that. And the more of us who do that, we change this world. And in a year, or so, if we all do this, because there's many people, it's not just me, many people are aware and are doing this. I was just holding back, and I got called out so many times on this. And I was watching an Esther Hicks, Abraham Hicks video this morning, which I hadn't done in a long time. I stopped listening to all of them because it made me feel like I was copying, and that happened a long time ago. We're never copying. We're being inspired. But when I heard this and other things, I said, I can no longer do this. And then, of course, I wrote something this morning that you'll see that there are no, about disasters. I think it's going to be a disaster if I talk about everything and give everybody the truth of what's going on, that I'm going to somehow lose. And I'm like, I don't care anymore. I have to own who I am so that I can help what is going on in the world, and I want to work with those people who really want to love themselves, who want to get rid of all their crap, because everything that I was given in all of these writings can do that. There's not a single thing that I didn't have. Every aspect of it that could cause someone to become who they were meant to be, and that's what I'm going to devote my life to. Become your authentic self.